Hello everyone, this is Medical Gateway, and today we are going to study the vitamin B12, folic acid, and their relationship with the RBC maturation. So what is the role of vitamin B12 and folic acid in RBC maturation, and what exactly is pernicious anemia? This is our topic today. So let's start with the vitamin D, exactly from where the vitamin D comes. So vitamin D is present in beef, liver, and chicken. So whenever we eat beef, liver, or chicken, the vitamin B12 goes into our stomach. And when the vitamin B12 reaches the stomach, there is release of intrinsic factor from the parietal cells in the stomach. So whenever we eat vitamin B12 or whenever we eat beef, liver, or chicken, the vitamin B12 goes into our stomach, and on the entry of vitamin B12 into the stomach, the parietal cells of the stomach release intrinsic factor. So now this intrinsic factor basically has two functions. This intrinsic factor prevents the digestion of vitamin B12, and this intrinsic factor also assists the absorption of vitamin B12. So this main function of the intrinsic factor is the protection of vitamin B12 from digestion and also the absorption of vitamin B12. So intrinsic factor protects vitamin B12 and then takes this vitamin B12 and get it absorbed into the mucosal cells of the ileum. So when the vitamin B12 is absorbed into the mucosal cells of ileum, then the vitamin B12 moves into the blood via pinocytosis. So finally, the vitamin B12 we have eaten goes into the blood. So from blood, the vitamin B12 goes into the liver, and in the liver, the vitamin B12 is stored. And this vitamin B12 will be used by the bone marrow whenever the maturation of RBC is needed. So the main function of the vitamin B12 with reference to the erythropoiesis is that vitamin B12 helps in maturation of red blood cells. So if there is deficiency of vitamin B12, then it will result into defect in maturation of RBCs. I'm going to quickly revise this, that vitamin B12 comes from beef, liver, and chicken. Whenever it goes into the stomach, the parietal cells of the stomach release intrinsic factor. Now this intrinsic factor will prevent vitamin B12's digestion and will assist its absorption into the mucosal cells of the ileum, from where the vitamin B12 moves into the blood via pinocytosis, and then this vitamin B12 will be stored in the liver. And then this vitamin B12 will be utilized by the bone marrow whenever the maturation of the RBC is required. Okay. Now, what exactly is pernicious anemia? And how pernicious anemia is related to this vitamin B12 or intrinsic factor. So let's discuss it. So, okay. Now, in pernicious anemia, there is atrophy of gastric mucosa. Now, whenever there is atrophy of gastric mucosa, it will result into decreased gastric secretions. Now, mucosa is atrophied, so from where the secretions are going to come? So there will be decreased secretions. And when there are decreased stomach secretions, then it means there will be decreased production of intrinsic factor. And when there will be decreased production of intrinsic factor, now there is no intrinsic factor or less intrinsic factor to prevent the digestion of B12 and to assist the absorption of B12, there will be decreased vitamin B12 absorption. Okay? So this is basically pernicious anemia. And vitamin B12, whenever there is decreased vitamin B12, this will lead to maturation defect of RBCs, which is basically pernicious anemia. So anemia because of the vitamin B12 deficiency, and to be precise, anemia because of the intrinsic factor deficiency is the pernicious anemia. Okay. So once again, in pernicious anemia, there is atrophy of gastric mucosa, which results into decreased production of intrinsic factor, and which further leads to decreased vitamin B12 absorption. So in the body, if there is decreased vitamin B12, so does it mean it is only because of the pernicious anemia? No, it can also be because of some other causes like dietary deficiency. If someone is not suffering from malnutrition or not eating the things which have vitamin B12 in it, then it is a dietary deficiency of vitamin B12. And the second one is the malabsorption. If there is some malabsorptive defect, then the vitamin B12 will be deficient from the body. So vitamin B12 can be deficient because of the dietary deficiency, because of the malabsorption, or because of the intrinsic factor deficiency. Now, what will happen to the maturation of RBCs, and how exactly deficiency of vitamin B12 is going to affect maturation of RBCs? So whenever there is vitamin B12 decreased level of vitamin B12 in the body, there will be decreased formation of thymidine triphosphate. Now, if you remember the bases in the DNA, there were 4 types. One was guanine, cytosine, thymidine, and adenine. So there was adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymidine. Now, and whereas in the RNA, in place of thymine, there was uracil. So now, what B12 does? B12 basically helps in the formation of thymidine triphosphate. So when there is B12 deficiency, there will be decreased thymidine triphosphate. And when there is decreased thymidine triphosphate, it will result into decreased DNA maturation. Okay? So vitamin B12 basically helps with the DNA maturation by formation of thymidine triphosphate. Okay, so this is how the decrease in vitamin B12 deficiency is affecting the DNA maturation. Now, DNA maturation is being affected, but there is no defect in the RNA synthesis or RNA maturation. So there is defect in the DNA maturation, but there is no defect in the RNA synthesis. Now, interestingly, where is DNA located? DNA is located in the nucleus. And where is RNA located? RNA is basically, there are 3 types of RNA: the messenger RNA, the ribosomal RNA, and the transfer RNA. So messenger RNA goes from nucleus into the cytoplasm, and then there in the cytoplasm there are ribosomal RNA and the transfer RNA. So all these RNAs are basically working in the cytoplasm. So now the nucleus has DNA and the cytoplasm has RNA. So the main component of the nucleus, the DNA, that is not being matured, whereas the synthesis of the RNA, and from the RNA, the protein synthesis inside the cytoplasm is taking place well. So what is going to happen? So the nucleus is not maturing, whereas the cytoplasm is maturing normally. So when the nucleus is not maturing and the cytoplasm is maturing normally, it means that the size of the nucleus is not growing, whereas the size of the cytoplasm is growing with time. Or the size of the nucleus is not growing at the normal pace, whereas the size of the cytoplasm is growing with the normal pace. So there will not be any sync between the relative growth of the nucleus and the relative growth of the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm will grow way more than the size of the nucleus. Now this, as there is no sync between the growth of the both parts, the nucleus and the cytoplasm, this condition is known as nucleocytoplasmic asynchrony. Okay, so this is nucleocytoplasmic asynchrony. Okay, so now one more thing is that when the cell goes for replication, whenever the size of the nucleus is reached to a maturer level. So whenever the growth of the nucleus is complete, and it's then the nucleus goes into replication. Now, what is happening is, in this case, that the nucleus is not growing, or to be precise, the DNA inside the nucleus is not maturing, and if the DNA is not maturing, then the cell replication will be delayed. So the cell replication is delayed, but the cytoplasm is continuously growing. So in this case, there will be a relatively smaller nucleus, but there will be a very large sized cell. That's why this anemia, because of the vitamin B12 deficiency, is known as macrocytic anemia. In this anemia, the size of the red blood cell, the mean corpuscular volume of the red blood cells, the MCV of the red blood cells is greater than normal. Okay, so in vitamin B12 and folic acid deficiency, both results in macrocytic anemias. Okay, because the cell grows large before the nucleus matures and replicates. Okay, so there are three things. Number one, the DNA is not being matured. Second, there is nucleocytoplasmic asynchrony. And third, the cell is growing large way before the nucleus is matured and it replicates. So that's why this whole condition is known as macrocytic, or the large sized cells, and this is anemia. So this is macrocytic anemia. Now, why this is anemia? Okay, now the point is this. Whenever there is a nucleocytoplasmic asynchrony and the cell grows way more than the normal size, then the membrane of the red blood cells will become flimsy. There will be increased fragility of the red blood cell membrane. So whenever the fragility of the membrane is increased, this RBC is easily ruptured. So this RBC will have a short life. This large size, this macrocytic RBC, this RBC having a increased mean corpuscular volume, will have a short life, and because of this short life, it will result into anemia. Okay, so this is pernicious anemia. To be specific, pernicious anemia is because of the pernicious anemia is. Any vitamin B12 deficiency is not pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia is basically the vitamin B12 deficiency because of the intrinsic factor deficiency, and that is because of the atrophy of the gastric mucosa. Okay, and then vitamin B12 deficiency due to any reason will result into this macrocytic anemia because of this thymidine triphosphate, decrease in thymidine triphosphate formation and nucleocytoplasmic asynchrony. Okay, so this is the vitamin B12, the role of vitamin B12 with reference to the RBC maturation, and this is pernicious anemia. Now let's move to the folic acid. Now folic acid is present in green vegetables, present in fruits, present in meat, liver. So their deficiency, if the folic acid, if the person is not eating them, or there's deficiency of folic acid due to any reason, then it will also lead to the same maturation failure as in the case of vitamin B12 deficiency. So that's why vitamin B12 and folic acid, these topics are always studied combined, because they both lead to maturation failures. Okay, now folic acid deficiencies aren't that much common. The reason behind is that body has huge amount of extra stores of folic acid. So if someone is having a decreased intake of folic acid in diet for some time, then it doesn't matter until unless someone is severely malnutritioned because of the diet, like tea and toast diet, for a very long duration of time, then they might go into folic acid deficiency, and then the folic acid will lead to the maturation failure, just like vitamin B12. Okay, so this is a very important topic, especially with reference to the clinically speaking, because of the pernicious anemia, and that's why in diet the vitamin B12 and the folic acids are extremely important. Okay, so this is it. See you in next part.